So, welcome to this podcast, How Pranic Healing Changed My Life. And today I have the most wonderful, in fact, every time I start off with the same thing where I say, I want to introduce you to an incredible person who's now become a friend. And I kind of say that every single time. And that's the one thing I love in Pranic Healing is people come, they have their pranic healing sessions, they take the classes, and they end up becoming like really good friends. And I must say, just looking back at all of this, I have got so many dear friends that I've met through pranic healing. So that's just something I want to share, like right out of the gate, that I have just met the most incredible people. And if there's one thing I'm grateful for in pranic healing, that I've had the opportunity to meet such lovely people. So today I'm going to introduce you to Diane, who has just had such lovely experiences with pranic healing, and I'm excited to share her story with you. So welcome, Diane. Thank you for being on this podcast. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Nicole. A
Absolutely.
pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. And just talking about like so many friends, that's what I found with the pranic healing community, the love, the friendship. It's just amazing. It really, really
It
is.
is, right? And it's funny because, as I said, when we were planning this podcast, that wasn't even a direction I was going. And as I was introducing you, I was like, man, we have got such a beautiful community of good people with good hearts, with a willingness to do good. And I'm like, those are the people you need more of in your life, right? So,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
so what I'd like to start with, Diane, is what got you into pranic healing? How did you find us? Like, what was the thing that prompted you to look for pranic healing?
Um, well, I have been working with energy for probably 30 years, close to 30 years now, starting in Reiki and then also traditional feng shui, which is to do with energy and but more
We're in
so,
the energy field already. So this was just
yes,
natural progression, right?
yes.
Okay. And,
But can I just digress and go
yeah.
back to um quite a long time ago, I had a psychic reading, and a lady told me that I was a healer. So then after that, I wasn't quite sure what I should be doing. So then I found Reiki. Then I started in the feng shui. And so I had been doing that for quite a while, quite a few years. And then I was on a feng shui symposium, that a yearly thing that the IFSA, International Feng Shui Association, holds. And I was on that, and people were commenting. And this gentleman said, he commented, sorry, on pranic healing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's that? What's that? So I decided to research it. And I found that pranic healing was right here in Tampa, where I live. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like fantastic. I have to call. I want to know all about it. I did a little bit of research online. And then I think it was after my little bit of research, I called you to find out more. I wanted to have a session because I like to experience these things for myself, which I think is a great thing. If you want to practice something, you need to experience it for yourself, right? So that's when I called, booked in for a session, and the rest is kind of history. It's like, okay, I felt so great. It felt like a 50-pound weight, which I didn't even realize I was carrying around, was lifted off my shoulders. And so I'm like, okay, I'm in. I've got to book in for the next classes when they start.
I love how you describe that because so many people don't realize what they are walking around with. Like we've all got baggage,
Mm,
but some people really aren't aware of the amount of baggage that they are carrying, and being able to remove that and alleviate some of that from your system. I mean, I remembered very clearly that session because I think it was close to your birthday, and I think you were close to actually traveling to Australia. So I only saw you that one time, and it was quite amazing that even just with one session that you felt such a difference and stuff was removed that you didn't even know you were carrying. And that's the one thing I love about pranic healing is it clears everything that's not meant to be there. We can clear out of the system, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I'm driving home and I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever felt this light,
Mm-hmm.
this peaceful. It was just, yeah, it was just amazing. It was really, really good.
And
And one thing that my husband has said about now that I've taken many courses in pranic healing is that I am more peaceful. I'm a more peaceful person. But I am generally like quiet and, a peaceful person. But it's amazing that he actually said, I feel like you're calmer, you've got more peace. And so that's a nice thing.
completely, and it's something people feedback a lot, where you just get some people that are naturally stressed and you get some people that are just like sort of more chilled out. But
Mm,
even within that, it just takes you to that next level where you take things as they come and you're not triggered and you feel more peaceful and you just feel like, life is working in my favor, not against me. And a lot of those perceptions start to creep in as well. And one of the big things a lot of people report is that their relationships improve. And it almost just happens naturally, because if you're feeling good about yourself and you're not carrying all the baggage of the past, and you're feeling lighter and you're feeling more at peace, the only thing that can happen is your relationships can improve, because
mm.
that you're now bringing to the relationship, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, it's just a different way to
Yeah.
think of it. So you've done a lot of classes, and I mean, you've done them in a really short amount of time. And the
Yeah.
one thing that which is so fantastic, because you can actually get a lot of the training sort of, quite consistently throughout the year, is how you've already put it into practice. So we met, it was only like, it's been a couple of years,
Yeah, two
and
years.
already you're working with clients, you're working in our healing pod, you're working with case studies, you're doing your certification.
Mhm.
I'm sure that wasn't even part of your agenda when you booked your first session, but just share like this whole new avenue that you're exploring right now.
It feels like this is what I was meant to do. And I'm really disappointed I didn't find it earlier, but I believe everything happens for a reason. So for right now, I'm happy. I'm taking it all in and, healing people and doing the best that I can, for what I've got coming up.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a great gift to have, because we don't know what life's got in store for us.
Mm,
And being able to help friends and family when they're in crisis, or, when they've got physical issues or health issues going on, to be able to have a tool to work with that. And I know you and I are fairly similar, because you got family in Australia, I've got family in South Africa. And when one of them is having a bad day, or there's a crisis, or there's a health issue, you kind of don't feel like you're as separated if you can do some pranic healing and help them through that, because there's nothing worse than being on the other side of the world and a loved one is going through something and you feel like, I literally can't do anything. And I think you've done that for some family in Australia, right?
yes. Yeah, yeah, I have. And friends as well. So it's really good because when I'm doing it for my great nieces, they've had a few issues with their lungs and cold and not COVID, thankfully. But yeah, it's good that they're sleeping while I'm working on them. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
time change actually works in your favor at that
yeah,
time, right?
yeah, it does. It does. But here at home, it's just like helping my daughter. She had issues. She's in Chicago, so she calls me up and, Mom, I have this. Can you help me? So I'm like, okay, give me, 15, 20 minutes and I'll get on to that. And then my daughter-in-law, migraines, and that cleared it up. And I have to tell you a story about my husband. Back in April of this year, we were outside working. He was on our boat, cleaning our boat. And I heard this crash bang. And I was like, oh, what was that noise? Anyway, I didn't pay too much attention. And then the next minute, he's calling out to me and he's looking, and he had blood pouring down his head. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I ran down to the dock, and he was out of breath. He felt like he was going to faint. Anyway, me and a neighbor here ended up getting off the boat onto the dock. And my first thought was, I have to stop the bleeding. So straight away, I started putting in, just containing it, and then sweeping, sweeping, sweeping. And within 2 minutes, the blood stopped.
Wow.
It was amazing. And, because like I've only been in the pranic community for about 2 years, but when something happens that's kind of like an emergency, things go out the window and you're like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? So, but always going back to the basics, I think
And I
is.
love that. I love that because exactly what you're saying is we don't know what's coming.
Mm,
And even with a short amount of training in pranic healing, people are literally like creating miraculous healing and being able to stop that blood and immediately be able to do something. I mean, for me, like that is a life skill everybody should have, right? Especially as a parent.
oh yeah, definitely. I agree 100%.
Mm.
So that was good. And so anyway, got him off to the hospital. He ended up with 4 staples in his head, so it was a pretty bad gash. But the whole drive on the way to the hospital, which is probably about 20 minutes away, I had one hand on the wheel and I'm sweeping with the other hand. So yeah,
Amazing. And
so
that's
that
what I love about pranic healing is it's a complementary therapy. So it doesn't replace traditional Western medicine, but it is the most perfect complement to it. And when you do both, that is really where the magic happens. And you did everything right. You started pranic healing right away. You got him the medical help that he needed. But the one thing I say with a lot of people when you're working in that emergency situation, the quicker you can start the pranic healing, the quicker the recovery is going to be. Because if you can reduce that pain, reduce that swelling, reduce that bleeding immediately, it just means that the trauma is going to be less. I mean, that is just phenomenal, phenomenal. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on, which is just so fantastic, is we have this tool which we call distant pranic healing, which we share in the level 1 class. And literally, we give you the tools and the understanding of how to work on people when they're far away.
yeah.
Not even far away, maybe even the house next door, but they don't need to be in front of you. And that is such a great tool. I know when I immigrated from South Africa to the US, I had a lot of clients in South Africa, and I was like, don't worry, we got distant pranic healing. I can do that. We were on holiday. We went to a lovely beach resort. I had clients booked that week. I was sitting on the beach. I was doing healing for them. Like, it's such a lovely lifestyle because you could literally be anywhere in the world. And as long as you're energetically connected with that person, you can do pranic healing anyway. And
Yeah.
the one thing where that totally came into its like magnificence was during COVID. I have never been as busy as what I was during COVID, because when the world shut down, pranic healers were as busy as they could be because people were stressed, they were sick, they were worried. Some of them had COVID, and we had the tools and the ability to work on them remotely without actually having to even be in the same space as them. And that for me was just phenomenal. I really feel like it put pranic healing on the map.
Yeah, I totally agree. My father, who lives in Australia, is in assisted living, 88 years old, and he had COVID twice. Uh,
Wow.
so yeah, as soon as I was told, I'm like working on him, and some helpers from the pod actually helped as well. And within, I think it was like 3 days, he was fine. He was in hospital, but he was released from hospital, so fine. And it's just amazing.
That's fantastic. And
Really
you've
amazing.
got so many stories like that to share. And I think that really was the point of doing this podcast, because so many people have these incredible experiences. And I just want like the whole world to hear, like, these are the amazing things that regular people from all different walks of life and all different faiths and all different religions and all different philosophies, like pranic healing is such an all-inclusive modality, and it's changing people's lives in the most beautiful way. And everyone's got their own unique story and their own experiences. And I wanted this as a platform to just be able to share that with everyone and say, listen, look at what's going on. Like, these are just like regular people with miraculous things happening in their lives. And you don't need any special skills. You need some basic training, but you could be bringing this into your life as well. And just to have those skills. I mean, our teacher, Master Choa Koksui, his goal was to have one pranic healer per family. And when I look at the impact it's had in my family, and I see the same with you in your family, when you just look at that impact that it's had, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this should be a recipe for everybody for their life, and to have these skills, because it's just so all encompassing for everything that could potentially happen in your life.
Yeah.
Pranic healing approach or philosophy or treatment for that. And I've just seen it time and time and time again. And just listening to people's stories is inspiring me even more. I just wanted to inspire everybody else. And I leave these podcasts and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so inspired. I want to go do more. So,
Well,
yeah, anything else you can add?
I was just going to say, talking about inspiring, when you are sitting in the class and you hear the miraculous stories about the healings, that it just blows your mind. It's just like, how is this possible?
With
But
such a simple modality, like, that's the thing, is it's not even super complicated.
yeah,
That's what I love.
yeah, it's so simple, and I love that it has the protocols. There is protocols that you have to follow, but like in my husband's situation, if you just go back to basics, you don't need to follow a protocol in an emergency situation.
You
You
just
just,
jump into action.
yes, yeah, you do. And it works out, amazingly. So yes,
Fantastic.
I'm really excited to continue my journey, to continue learning, and I'm loving the certification as well. And I think you find that when you talk to people about pranic healing, that you realize how many people out there need healing, that they just don't know about pranic healing. So,
I agree with you completely on that point. And again, that was one of the reasons for this podcast, is that there would be somebody out there that's listening to you today, and they would be like, whatever she said, that's what I want in my life. And
Mhm.
we really are inspiring so many people. So on that note, if there was like one message that you could send to some random person that would be potentially listening, that would just inspire them or help them, like, what would your message be, to that person?
Um, I think that if you want to become more centered, because sometimes we have to look at ourselves before we look at healing others, right? So, because we heal ourselves as well as others. And if we're not healed, then we don't make very good healers. So, if somebody wants to become more centered, more calm, would love to help people, um, I think pranic healing is something they need to definitely explore for just self well-being, and to help their family, help, friends across the world, across the state, across the street,
I love
where
it. I love it. And that's so pure and so heartfelt, because your message, basically what I'm hearing is, heal yourself so you can make a difference in somebody else's life who may be suffering, and being able to do that from a loving, giving heart and from a space of being in a healthy physical, mental, emotional, spiritual state. That is what we're trying to achieve in pranic healing. So thank you. That was awesome. So thank you, Diane. I'm excited to see what the future holds. You've made such great progress in such a short time, and it's never too late to learn pranic healing. You did touch on that, where you said, all is in divine timing. You're in the right place at the right time to find pranic healing. And we have pranic healers in their 80s that are taking basic pranic healing, and they still have so much to give and have such a sense of purpose, and it's never too late. So thank you for jumping in when you did.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I just want to say thank you to you for opening a local center here in Tampa, because I think so many people's lives have changed for the better, enriched, and have been healed because of, your center and also Pranic Healing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Diane. And
It was lovely chatting to you.
thank you so much. Thank you.